Hello everyone and welcome to this new video of Everyday JavaScript. In this video, we are going to learn two new features of JavaScript, that is Array.flatMap and Object.fromEntries. So these two names sound quite familiar because we used to have Array.flat and Array.map as API functions of array or the prototype functions of an array, and we used to have Object.entries. So we know those functions at least. Before I start this video, please like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. And also don't forget to comment in the comment section. Thank you. And these are the new functions that have been introduced by JavaScript, looking at the use cases of these functions by the community. Now, let me go ahead and start explaining to you what Array.flatMap is and Object.fromEntry is. I'm here in my console right now, and I'm going to just go ahead and execute the code here itself. So let me start with Array.flatMap. Firstly, I'll start with Array.flat. Let's say we have an array which is a nested array, like array inside an array, and we'll make it more complex over here. So when you do my array dot flat, it will flatten by one level. So if you see over here, it has flattened the level of an array from 3 levels to 2 levels. So right now, if you see, the first element is now 1, the second element is 2, and the third element or the second index element is now 3. But it's an array. I can pass the depth of the flattening of my array. So if I say array.flat2, it will go ahead and flatten the array totally. So now I get a totally flat array from a complex array that I have. If I don't know the depth of an array, I can go ahead and do something like my array dot flat infinity. If I do this, it is going to work for any depth of an array, and it is going to recursively travel and flatten the array to a single level. Now, this is what we know. This is the simplest of the use case. Let's go ahead and see what map is. Everyone might be aware of what map is. So let's say I'll declare another array. Let my new array equal to 1, 2, 3. Now map is a function which will allow you to go ahead and iterate over each and every element of an array and process it and return it back to form a new array. So let's say my new array dot map. Let's say I want to duplicate each and every element inside an array. So I'll pass a callback function inside this and make this function return this function will accept an element which will be referring to the current value of the iteration. So let's say if it is iterating over 1, so the current value would be 1. I'll go ahead and return x comma x. So this will help me duplicate my elements of an array. So if I go ahead and see over here, it will return me 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, the 3 elements of an array. Now, if you combine it with the flat function, it is going to return you the elements which are duplicated. So remember my array, my new array, it was 1, 2, 3. Now I have this elements duplicated inside the array itself. So this was the one of the use cases, or you can have multiple use cases using flat map. And but we had to do two different things, like we had to do first map and then we used to execute flat. It was a bit slower. So now JavaScript has a dedicated function which is flatMap, which you can execute something like this: my new array, which is 123 dot flatMap, and inside this you can pass a function which can either return an array or an element. Doesn't matter to the flatMap function because ultimately it's going to flatten it at the depth of one level. So we are going to again execute the duplicate function over here, which will return a duplication of an array. So it will return you ultimately the same output. Now this has a bit of optimizations as compared to this, and it runs a bit faster as compared to this. So flat map can be used like this. Now, second thing we have is Object.fromEntries. In order to refresh your memories, let's create an object. Let my object equal to, I'll have three properties inside an object: x1, y2, z3. To refresh your memories, what Object.entries was, it was a way of iterating over the properties and creating them into an array of key value pairs. So Object.entries, my object. So the return value of this Object.entries would have been an array of arrays which would contain key value pairs. So if you see, the array contains three elements corresponding to the three properties of the object, and those three elements would be an array, which is a combination of key, which is a string, and a value, which is the exact value, the number. Now Object.fromEntries is something that does exactly opposite of this. So let's say let my entries equal to Object.entries, my object. Okay, I'll do object. I'll print out what my entries is. It is the same value, and what I'll do is Object.fromEntries is having, I mean, we need to pass the entries of an object, and we'll get the object back, which is x, y, and z. So this can't be the exact use case why we should use Object.fromEntries. It has to have a constructive use case. So let's say I have defined my object over here, and my object's value is this. I want to filter all the properties of an object to check whether I have any null values, or I want all the properties which are less than 3. So let's go ahead and try that. Object.fromEntries, and inside Object.fromEntries I'm going to call Object.entries. So we are going to create entries from our object, that is my object, and this is going to return me an array. I hope you remember the example. It is going to return me an array, and we are going to hit filter on that array, and inside this filter we are going to receive an entry. Now you remember is entry is something like this: key and value. It's an array of key and value, right? So we are going to filter based on value. That is the first element of an array, which is less than 3. So I'm going to filter all the entries of an object and return only those properties or those entries of an object which are less than 3, and based on that we are going to construct an object from the remaining entries that have been filtered out. So the output of this should be an object which consists of x and y. Let's execute this, and we are going to get an object which is going to have only x and y, because z is going to be filtered out from this. So this is how we can filter out the properties of an object. Probably another use case can be, let's say we have a huge object that is getting returned, and we want to filter out an object based on null properties. Like we don't want the null properties, and we want only the first 6 properties which are non-null inside an object. So, just to revise, today we learned Array.flatMap and Object.entries. These are the two new features in JavaScript. We know what Array.flat is. It is used to flatten the array by a certain level. We can pass in the depth to the array, like let's say over here 2. We have passed it and it will recursively solve the array and flatten it to the second level of depth. And if we don't know the depth of an array, we can pass in infinity, so this will flatten it to the last level. We can use map in order to duplicate the elements of an array, and we can combine it with flatten so that we can have duplicate elements inside an array. But the problem was it was a bit slow. In order to do that, in order to execute a bit faster, JavaScript has introduced FlatMap, which is a combination of flat and map. And you can pass in your execution function over here, which will manipulate the array, and flat would help you to flatten the array. So it's a combination of it, but it's a bit faster than the previous implementation. We also have Object.entries, or we also learned today Object.fromEntries. For that, we revised what Object.entries was. This Object.entries was used to um, create a key value pair in a form of an array. So let's say if an object was passed with three properties, three key value pairs of x, y, and z, and 1, 2, and 3, the Object.entries would return us an array of arrays, which would be key value pairs. Now, Object.fromEntries is just the opposite. It will help us construct the object from the entries. So let's say if we had an entries array like x1, y2, z3, if we pass it on to Object.fromEntries, we'll get output as the object, which will have x, y, and z. The use case of this, it can be used to filter out the properties, unwanted properties, or a certain condition that we want to execute. So just in our case, we want to filter out the properties which have a value less than 3. So in our case, z would be filtered out, and we'll get the output as 1 and 2. Another use case is if you want non-null properties. So this is quite useful. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do like, subscribe, and share this video, and comment in the comment section and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching Everyday JavaScript. I hope you enjoyed this video. For more videos like this, please like, subscribe, and share my channel Everyday JavaScript. And for any other concepts that you want me to explain visually, please drop your comments in the comment section. And thank you for watching.